morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. Now, for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind, interesting individuals. And my guest this evening is Jen Terry, who is with Kiva. The title of the show is Kiva Empowering People. And there's a lot to be said about that, but first I'm going to talk to you about who you are personally so that I can scare you before you get talking about Kiva. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling all right.
Yeah. Are you nervous?
A little bit.
Not as much as I am.
No.
I'm fine. I was talking to a guy at the gym this morning, and I said, how are you? He says, well, sometimes I feel like a pigeon, and other times I feel like the statue. And I'm not sure how it is today. You know, the pigeon and the statue, and never mind.
Okay.
Okay, the show goes, the first part, I talk to you about who you are so people will know where you're coming from when you have your discussions about Kiva and whatever else we're talking about. And then the second half, we'll be talking more about the details of Kiva and how it came about. I've got some of the stuff you sent me that talks about Kiva a little bit. I may say a few words about that. Jen is currently working on the domestic lending project of Kiva.org, Kiva Zip in Oregon. Kiva, I won't do that right now. Let's start right off into the who are you.
All right.
And where were you born?
I was born in Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Mm-hmm.
And when was that?
When was that? That was in 1987.
87, okay. Why were you born?
Where in Kentucky?
Oh, why?
Oh, why was I born?
Yeah, that's your first trick question.
I'm still trying to figure that one out. It's a good question.
Yeah. And I must confess to the viewers that it's a hard time interviewing you because you're so darn good looking and pretty until I find I'm admiring you rather than asking questions and listening to you. You're very fortunate. Yeah.
Thank you.
You betcha. Anything significant about your cultural heritage, or your racial heritage, or are you plain old American white bread or what?
I am plain old American, muddled, lots of European.
Yeah. And do you have a religious preference? By the way, if I ask you a question that you don't want to answer, you can say, I don't want to answer that, okay?
Okay, sure.
Is it okay? Do you have a religious preference nowadays or not?
I do not. I would say I'm spiritual, but I don't practice any given religion.
What does that mean, spiritual?
It means that I agnostically believe in the connection between people and that there's some sort of force at work. I was raised Catholic, but I don't consider myself Catholic.
I knew there was something wrong with you. I was an ultra boy for years.
Oh, were you really?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
How about your formal education?
My formal education?
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to San Diego for college. Went to University of California in San Diego and studied political science.
Political science?
Mm-hmm. Got my bachelor's in political science.
Yeah. And any other education you got beyond that that's worth reporting to the
Not
viewers?
yet, no. Just my bachelor's so far. Yeah.
You're going to go back to school?
I think so. I think so.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I'm still in school.
Are you? Yeah.
I'm 86 in December, and I'm still in school. I've got a student card for Portland Community College because I never get enough of learning. I love it. Yeah.
I feel similarly.
Yeah. And your working career has been with Kiva?
My working career has been sort of, it's been a mix. I've been with Kiva for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was working for an e-commerce company in San Francisco. And prior to that, I worked at the State Department for a senator in San Diego.
State Department.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, high cotton over there, huh?
I suppose.
How was that?
That was a really interesting experience. I was actually working on human rights in Latin America.
Human rights in Latin America.
Yeah.
Are you a do-gooder, are you?
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you have a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, or companion, or dog?
No, I don't.
Or anything?
No, I'm living with my family here now.
Uh-huh.
I have an aunt and uncle and a little cousin, but and there's a cat and some goats and chickens. So, but
political persuasion, are you left, center, or right, far right, or how would you characterize yourself on the political continuum?
I think it really depends on the issue
Uh-huh.
a lot. I've considered myself Democrat for some time, but depending on the issue, that changes. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any memberships in political, social, or civic organizations that are worth mentioning to the viewers?
Not that I can think of. No. Yeah. I mean, I've professionally been. I've worked for political organizations, but yeah.
So how's your working future going to be? You're going to still be with Kiva or doing some other stuff or what?
We'll see. So what I've been doing is actually, it's a 4-month fellowship with Kiva. And so they send individuals out to basically do business development and spread the word about the loan program. So that's ending for me just the end of next week. So I'm not sure what's next for me, actually.
So it's all open ahead of you.
It's all open.
Unfold.
Yep. We shall see what unfolds.
Do you know when you go back to school?
I'm thinking I'll probably go back to school within the next couple years. Yeah.
Good for you. What are you going to major in then?
I'd like a business degree and potentially a degree in international development.
Oh, ambitious.
Yeah.
Why? Okay.
We'll see.
Any persons from the past or alive today that you look up to or admire? Any names come to mind?
In line with Kiva, I think that someone that's admirable is Muhammad Yunus, and he's kind of famous for the micro loan. Yeah, that's kind of the first person that comes to mind, just given the topic. But
You bet. Will you say a few words about him?
Just that he founded Grameen Bank, which I was really fascinated with learning about group loans and how being a member of your community is such a powerful tool to encourage repayment and how much people will vouch for people that they know. And so this model of making loans to low-income villages is spread all over the world through his
That's
work.
a revolutionary idea anymore,
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yeah.
That's terrific. Great,
Yeah.
great. Let's see, I have some other notes here. All right, so let's go on and talk about your questions you submitted to me
Sure, yeah.
and see where we end up here.
Okay.
It says Kiva started internationally. Can you talk about the expansion into the U.S. and the difference between Kiva in the U.S. and in the developing world? What does Kiva mean, K-I-V-A?
So it's a funny story. I think our founders originally thought that it meant something in Swahili, and I'm blanking on what that was. But turns out it does. Depending on the dictionary, it might not have a meaning in Swahili or not, but it kind of stuck. And so I'm not sure if there's a deeper meaning, but
Interesting. Swahili rather than something European or Western or...
Yeah, so the first loan was actually made in Uganda. And so the founders of Kiva were volunteering in Uganda and got the idea for the organization because they had met some small business owners who needed capital, and they thought, well, we can put this online, and our friends back home will totally lend money for this loan. And so that was sort of the beginning of Kiva.
And it started that way? Okay. You talk about character-based lending. What is character-based lending?
Yeah, so character-based lending is sort of the idea that I just mentioned with Grameen, in that instead of looking at a lot of the financial criteria and the hard numbers behind a business, we really ask for organizations and community members and friends and family and customers to vouch for business owners. We ask them to vouch for their character, for the viability of the business, and we use those criteria to approve someone for a loan. So that's what we call social underwriting.
And it's working, and people are paying back?
People are paying back, yeah. So what's fascinating is, the first loan was done in 2005. So Kiva's been around for about 8 years, almost 9 actually. And they've done about just over $500 million in loans.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the repayment rate on the international side is actually about 99%.
That can't be true.
It's true, it's true.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And who are the principals who work for Kiva and do the interviewing and and gather information about whether a person is a worthy person to loan money to?
Yeah, so those were our partners. And the partners on the international side look a little different than the partners on the US side. Internationally, they're microfinance institutions most of the time. And so they are small community banks that operate much like banks here. And so they do underwriting in different ways, and Kiva has a process by which they evaluate the partnership, and then they sort of let them determine their loan, who's eligible for a loan. Here in the US, we partner with all kinds of community organizations, chambers of commerce, local community development organizations, churches even, really anyone who's working in their community and an active community member. And they will endorse someone publicly for a Kiva loan.
Well, then how do these people get paid who do the things you're talking about now and partner with you?
Yeah, so most of them, I mean, some of them do this on the side as their volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Others, they are already working with the clients. So maybe they have a small business loan program where they help someone write a business plan. They usually have technical assistance programs. And so they are a lot of times nonprofits, and they're funded from, grants. But they can fold the Kiva program into what they're already doing and offer financing in addition to all of these other tools that they're offering.
What do the big finance companies think about your work?
I think most of them are actually pretty excited about it because the size of our loan is really small. And we don't have those hard financial criteria like credit scores and being a U.S. citizen, for example, having to have been in business for a couple years. And so where we see Kiva is really getting people up to the level where they can access more traditional sources of financing. So I think that actually they're excited to see someone in that space that they deem too risky or the loan size too small to be profitable.
Interesting. If you get too big, though, they're going to shut you down because they can't make money and profits like they're making right now.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
Let's hope not. Let's hope. Give me an example of what's the smallest loan that Kiva will make?
The smallest loan that we do in the U.S. is $500. Internationally, I think it's less than that, but I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, because their economies are not as big as in America now.
Yeah.
And is there any interest on the loan?
There's not any interest on the loan. So that's another.
It's so revolutionary.
Yeah. Internationally, Kiva lenders and Kiva as an organization receives no interest or fees from the loans. The partners oftentimes will charge fees and interest to support their business operating costs, the banks. Here in the U.S., our partners don't receive interest as well either. A lot of times they're just really excited to be able to offer a financing option for clients they're already working with.
I'm an old lefty from way back. That's hard to believe, but I believe you.
All right.
Okay. Crowdfunding. Crowdfunding. What is crowdfunding and Kickstarter and Indiegogo, those terms?
Yeah. What are those?
Yeah.
So those are some other popular crowdfunding sites. And so what Kiva is really is a crowdfunding platform. And so what that means is that people come together to loan to the business. And so there's somewhere between 150, 250 people are the average amount of people that will lend to a business. And that's essentially what crowdfunding is. We're different from some of the other crowdfunding platforms because we are a loan program where people are paying them back, and most of the other really large programs are actually donation, or sometimes you'll have to offer, maybe if you're making a product, you'll mail that product once it's finally launched to your lenders. So what's exciting about being a loan program in the crowdfunding space is that our success rates are really high. And so because we have this recycling of funds, we have about a 90% success rate, meaning that if you find an endorsement from an organization and get some friends and family to lend to you initially, you have about a 90% chance of funding completely on Kiva. And the industry average is in more like 30 to 50%.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that in some countries in Africa, they don't loan very much money, and then some single mom, for example, will start a business and be a success, and this will get them off the ground and get them started. This is how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, son of a gun. Yeah. You have an example of a local borrower who received a Kiva loan and how it has helped his or her business?
Yeah.
Give me one.
I do. So we've done about 50 loans here in Oregon, and
50?
Yeah, 50.
How come I haven't heard about that before? The
I'm
corporate media. No.
I don't know what it is. I mean, we've only been here
Terrific.
just over a year, so that's 50 in about a year and a couple months.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it was really exciting. One of my favorite stories is a borrower that worked with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Portland, and he owned a pressure washing company. And he wasn't able to get a loan anywhere else to upgrade his equipment, but the chamber is actually a partner of Kiva's. And so they worked with him to apply for a Kiva loan and then also to apply for government contracts. And he was able to get a contract that he wouldn't have been able to get without the extra equipment that he invested in for about $1.2 million for over 5 years. Yeah, and so he was just really exciting, independent, self-employed business owner. And so it was a very exciting story.
So when you're working, what's your day like?
My day is pretty crazy. It's all over the place. I am doing things like this. Speaking I've spoke a couple times at Portland State University. I've given talks on access to capital panels. And then I'm meeting with a lot of referrals and nonprofit organizations that work with micro enterprises and explaining the program. Sometimes I'll do training sessions, going over what the program, how to actually implement it with their clients. Sometimes I'm helping a client who isn't so technologically savvy, take a photo for their loan profile or putting together an email campaign for the community. So
these other organizations hear about you. How do they hear about you?
A lot of it's word of mouth. Kiva has a large presence nationally and internationally. But as far as the organizations that I meet with, mostly it's a recommendation from another nonprofit in a similar field, and typically they know each other and they say, "Oh, you have to talk to so and so. They could really use this out there." So.
You work a full 8 hours or 6 hours, or you have long days sometimes? Sometimes
it's long days. Sometimes days are shorter. It totally depends on what's going on. There are a lot of events involved in networking to meet, different organizations, and so a lot of times there's evenings involved in that.
I first saw you at the Unitarian Church in downtown Portland.
Right.
How'd you get invited there?
Becca Parker is one of our biggest trustees here in Oregon, and she invited me to that particular event. Like I mentioned, all of these different nonprofits that work with small businesses are our traditional partners. Individuals can also endorse borrowers on the Kiva platform, and so Becca's endorsed, I want to say like 4 or 5 different borrowers just herself. Yeah.
And what does Becca do?
Becca is, I believe she was a teacher for some time. She's associated with the church. She's very involved in the community, in a lot of different organizations. I think she might be formally retired now, but yeah.
I remember her vaguely. At my age, I don't remember. So I was delighted to see you there. There were people tabling all around that gathering hall, and different organizations and different kinds of things like Kiva, and all people have some degree of social concerns, and it's always enjoyable. And then I saw you standing alone. There wasn't a big crowd around you at that time. They hadn't seen you yet.
They hadn't seen me
yet.
They didn't know what they were missing.
I thought I got to talk to you and get you on, because what you're really about is really important, and I can see that catching on more and more and more. And my big concern is, and I'm very political, as you know, is so much of our performance as a nation, as a culture, is toward profit and money and those kinds of things. And if we have a bigger success with things like Kiva, then these people are going to feel threatened and try to shut you down. But until then, I'll stop talking this way and just watch how you go. And
it's interesting because like I mentioned, we actually are really in a space where it's not as profitable for some of the larger institutions to be. And so, if we can, for example, someday get credit reporting on Kiva. And we're the only people that are offering loans when you, have a very low credit score, have a very high debt to income ratio, may or may not be a U.S. citizen, and then you get a loan and you are able to build your credit that way. We're actually making more customers for these larger loan types and these larger businesses.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that I see it necessarily as a competition with larger institutions. And obviously 0% interest loans are great, but they really are a stepping stone into getting more financially stable and able to access more mainstream.
You know yourself pretty well. Yeah. Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
Okay, you're available?
Sure, I'm available.
Okay. She's available and terrific. I'd like to see where you're at 5 years from now in your career and what you're doing in your education like that.
Yeah.
Where do you think you'll be then?
Well, it's still to be determined. I would like to go get some field experience and do some work in Africa myself. And I would like to get a business degree. And I would like to, I am excited by the fast-paced, private industry and the skills that I can develop and continue to sort of use them to provide access to capital to people who might not otherwise have it.
Uh-huh. When's the last time when you knew somebody loved you, you experienced somebody loving you? When's the last time that happened?
I mean, currently, I hope there's some people in my life that love me.
Do you think there are?
I think so.
Yeah, I can see it in your eyes. That's good. Yeah, yeah, you're lovable. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, talk about some of the people that you've met that are interesting in their own right. They have some interesting stories. And when you go to these places and do your presentations and talk to people, any characters you run across that are particularly interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of our partners are doing such great work in the community, and this 4 months or so here in Oregon has really opened my eyes into a world where people work incredibly hard, and people that come to mind immediately, for example, Ron at Best HQ down the street. I'm not sure if you know, he's got a micro, business development organization. I really like what he does. The first time I was introduced to him was this big expo with all kinds of businesses, and I think the mayor of Beaverton was speaking, and to see someone pull all of that together and get to know, how much he really is a part of this community, and he's brought businesses in, so he offers a space for them, but also, a big part of what he's about is inclusion, and how when you're working for yourself and you're your own business, you don't really, you are so busy and stressed, and you don't really have that teamwork that I think is really valuable. And so I keep forgetting the day of the week, but one day in the mornings, he gets everyone together for news. And it really is just going over what's stressing you out, current events, talking about how they might be relevant to whose industry. And I think creating that space is really valuable, and it's exciting to see a whole community around it. So.
How about your family back in Kentucky? Brothers and sisters?
I have 2 younger sisters.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what's their names?
Sarah and Allie.
And do they like you?
I think so. I hope so. Yeah.
Well, where are mom and dad now?
My mom is in Louisville, and my dad actually passed away when I was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. Is your mom going to see this show?
I will show her this show. I don't know if we can get her to watch it. No,
I'm sure she'll appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a break now and take a pause for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about some other stuff. Okay, we're back. Thanks for staying tuned. And for you people who just tuned in, you're watching Conversations with Dr. Don. Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever else we've decided to talk about. We're talking about Kiva and about loans and what Jen is about working for Kiva and her working career and all that kind of good stuff here. So at the Unitarian Church, you experienced what goes on there. What do you think about Unitarianism?
I probably don't know enough to have an opinion on Unitarianism. I thought that evening was a very interesting experience. I have not been to a lot of churches outside of Catholic churches, actually. So it was very interesting for me to see so many different opinions and so many people active in the community, and actually a quite liberal stance on things. The book author that was speaking that evening, I don't know if you got a chance to hear him.
Yes, yes.
That was something that would not have been in my home church. So it was just kind of like, oh, this is what church can be. That was an interesting experience for me.
Did you have a Holy Communion and all that stuff?
I did, yeah.
Do the rosary?
I still know, but I did as a kid, yes. I went to Catholic elementary school, so.
And I was an altar boy for years and years before I decided that I didn't have a calling. I was going to become a priest. And then I became an agnostic and a skeptic, and now I'm a humanist.
What does that mean?
Humanist means I'm be kind to all other human beings and respect their opinions and views. And I'm not sure that there's a God or a hereafter. Mm-hmm. And I just know that I'm supposed to be nice. Yeah. And be good fellow human beings, and work for social justice and being sure that human beings have a better life than they're having at the moment or they were having in the past. What's right with America?
What's right with America?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know you're a young age, but I'm testing you right now.
You're testing me. You're testing me. I mean,
because I'm going to ask you what's wrong with America.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's what's next. That's a really broad question. Mm-hmm. But I think, yeah, I mean, what's right with America? You have to be more specific.
Okay. What's right with America is our freedoms and the material stuff we have and how our lives are comfortable for the most part. And you have any big concerns or thoughts about what our government is about?
I guess I have a lot of thoughts, but I'd have to be, more directed. Okay. I'd say back to what's right with America. We are still sort of the hub for innovation and technology, and I find that really exciting. And I think that we should be investing more and more in that and staying, on top of the technological revolution. So that's pretty exciting. I spent the last couple of years living in San Francisco and working there, and
in San Francisco,
the energy
that's a left wing
is,
for sure.
It's but it really is exciting. It's a really exciting place to be where, you have conversations and people get ideas and then they just go build it, and they have this sense of being able to go do that and start companies that are slowly starting to trickle into becoming household names, and so.
Do you watch much television?
No, not too much. I have a couple shows, but that's it.
Okay. And how about movies?
From time to time, but yeah. I guess an average amount of movie watching in my life. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And you don't have a steady boyfriend now?
I don't have a steady boyfriend.
Okay, we got to fix that up for you. What are you going to do when you leave here now, from this interview?
What am I going to do when I leave? I am going to go pick up my uncle from work and then go back to Vancouver, where I'm staying with my family right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe go to yoga class, have dinner, and feed the chickens. Very wholesome, quiet thing, probably.
Are you pretty health conscious?
I would say so, yeah.
You go to the gym regularly?
Yeah.
And
Or I
it's-
don't go to the gym, but I run and I do yoga quite a bit.
Yeah, it shows pretty well. You're pretty trim, yeah.
Thank you.
Any special favorites of foods or styles of eating?
Favorite foods? I think variety would just be the general theme. Yeah.
How much traveling have you done in the U.S.?
In the U.S., I've traveled quite a bit, I guess. So I moved to San Diego for college, and through that, I drove across the country a handful of times.
By yourself?
Never by myself. I always had someone with me. I would always convince a family member or a friend to come along for the trip. But that was always really fun. And I've lived now in D.C., San Diego, San Francisco, and Oregon, and Kentucky, of course. And then I actually, not domestically, but I lived in South America for a year during undergrad and in Spain for a semester as well.
And how long were you in South America?
I was there for a school year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What country was that?
I was in Argentina and then Chile.
Oh, how about your adventures there? Anything worth reporting that happened that's
Anything that's
exciting?
worth reporting. I mean, I guess I consider myself someone excited to learn just different perspectives and immerse myself places. And so my style of travel has been to really go live for a while. And I mean, it was a very fun time, and I learned a bunch.
Did you learn Spanish?
I did learn Spanish. So I went to Spain on a kind of a whim. The school that I was attending had one program abroad, and it was Spain, and I said, sign me up. Okay, I guess that's where I'm going. And I went. I didn't know how to say anything in Spanish. I didn't even know how to order a beer when we got there. And I didn't learn much by the time I left, but I came home and I was like, well, that's like something I need to do. So took some more Spanish classes, went to Argentina and took a lot more Spanish there. And then finally, sort of the pinnacle of the trip was when I went to Chile, I was able to enroll in Spanish classes at a university, so where I was the only American. And so that was exciting to get to that point. I struggled to understand it for sure, but yeah. I remember economics class specifically where they kept repeating the word remolacha. Like the whole class. Turns out it's beet, and it's important because there's a big beet crop, and they use it to sweeten things, sort of like we do with corn and corn syrup. So anyway.
You look forward to some more traveling?
I do.
And other than Spain, have you been to other places in Europe?
When I was living in Spain, I traveled around a bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was in Cuba about 5 years ago on May Day, and celebrating
Yeah, how was that?
the revolution, and being a revolutionary myself, I really enjoyed that very much, yeah.
Wow. This last year?
No, this is 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Cuba's definitely on the list of places
it's
I'd like to
really,
go, yeah.
really fun.
Have you just been the once?
Just once. I plan to go back next year.
Yeah.
So what else can you tell me about Kiva that you haven't talked about before?
What else can I tell you about Kiva? I mean, I guess I can go into a little bit about how, the sort of the steps in getting a loan, and, getting that social underwriting component. So, anyone who has a small business can essentially go to our website, zip.kiva.org, and find out a little bit more. But getting connected with a trustee and applying for a loan, we've just heard all this really great feedback about what it's like to have 200 people believe that your business can succeed. And I think it's really exciting. The steps are sort of to get that initial endorsement, and then get 5 to 15 of your friends to endorse you by giving you $5. And so that's it. And so
$5.
but it's really more, it's not about the money. And we didn't want to make it about the money, because we really try to reach the people, the entrepreneurs that don't have other options, other financing options. I mean, and so we didn't want to require people to bring in their own community like many other of the crowdfunding platforms do. It's a lot of self-fundraising and who that can give you money. And so what this is more about is, do you have 5 to 15 people that believe in you as a person and your business? That's what it's about. So, I find that really exciting. And just changing the way in which you can access financing for your business and get started. So.
It seems to me it would be very interesting because you get to meet all sorts of people from all the different countries around the world, huh?
Yeah. So we do. Kiva's in 75 countries.
75.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have, I think, over around 200 partners, so microbanks. My work has been here, but I've been so excited to work on Zip because it's revolutionizing, the loan in that it's 0% interest all the way through. And so can we build a program where people aren't getting a return, but they're so excited to at least get their principal back?
So Zip is a local Oregon-based Kiva.
It's U.S.-based. It's actually in Kenya as well, but that's the only program that's in the U.S. is Zip. We're able to operate in Kenya because they have what's called M-Pesa. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they have one of the most advanced mobile payment networks in the world.
No, I'm not.
It's fascinating, actually. The reason I think it's so fascinating is because Kenyans actually developed this technology or the system themselves, and so everyone was using prepaid cell phones. And so these little SIM cards and the money that you had on them were, in effect, currency. And so they would send minutes to their friends and family when they didn't want to, take a bus for, an entire day, or send money with a bus driver and risk it getting stolen. They would just text the money. And so Vodafone sort of caught on to this, and they said, well, why don't we actually just let it be a currency? And so they developed M-Pesa.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's really amazing. And so because we can work through mobile payment technology in Kenya and then PayPal here in the U.S., we're able to do the 0% interest loans. So if we had to, pay the transaction fee ourselves, that would make it a lot more challenging. And now there's even an organization, I think it's called Zuna, I want to say, and they're basically micro entrepreneurs are opening up sort of ATMs where you can cash in these prepaid cell phone minutes.
Do you have an example of someone who got a very small loan and what they did with it? What kind of a business they started?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked on the international side, so I don't have a specific borrower that comes to mind. But we've worked with all kinds of basket weavers, for example, farmers, people who make a lot of textiles, a lot of agriculture. Our agriculture program in the U.S. is actually pretty robust. We have 100% repayment rates for farmers, and a lot of lenders who are really excited to support local food. So oftentimes they need to buy, for example, here we had a guy need to buy, what was like 4,000 pounds of chilies to make some hot sauce that he's selling all over. So that's one thing that someone's done. Buying a hybrid goat that yields more milk, for example, or is one example.
That's utterly fascinating.
Yeah, businesses selling honey, all kinds of things. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So tell me about an adventure that happened to you when you were in school back in Kentucky. Something that was unusual or memorable.
An adventure
in your growing up. Something happened. Somebody you met or.
Adventure growing up in Kentucky.
Nothing comes to mind?
Nothing comes to mind. I don't know.
Pretty even. Did you have anything interesting happen with the nuns? Of course, when I was in school, in Catholic school, they used rulers on the back of your hand, but you were civilized then when you were in school.
Yeah, we didn't have that, luckily. Thank goodness.
Were the nuns wearing habits when you were in school?
No, we didn't actually even have nuns.
Really? A Catholic school?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, it shows how old I am.
Yeah, we didn't. I did have a nun that taught my Montessori school, but I vaguely remember it. I think she had a dog named Bingo. That's like what I remember from that. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah,
you ever have a dog?
Yeah, I had a dog. I like dogs growing up.
Which one's your favorite dog?
Oh gosh, my favorite dog. You didn't ask me to pick a favorite. No. When I was young, we lived on a big hill in rural eastern Kentucky, and we had a dog named Katie because I liked that name, and at the time wanted to change my name to Katie, I think, so we gave it to the dog instead. That roamed all over the hill, but I remember my dad bringing it home in a box, wrapped up, and like we got to open it up early because obviously it couldn't live in the box
country?
forever. Yeah, so we lived in the country until I was about 7 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you said you fed chickens. Did you really do that?
Yeah, I fed chickens. I feed chickens today.
What?
We have chickens in Vancouver. I've really adopted the Portland lifestyle.
Sounds like you have. We're out there, yeah. Do the roosters wake up in the morning?
No, they're not. They're not roosters. They're hens. Is that right?
But usually
they don't-
you have chickens and you have hens and you have roosters too, don't you?
No, we don't have any roosters, so I don't hear any crowing.
But you do get eggs.
But we do get eggs. Yep, I had some this morning. They're great.
And
there really are green eggs. I didn't know that
Uh-huh.
until we had these chickens.
Mm-hmm. What kind of car do you drive?
Well, right now I am driving a Honda Civic. Not very exciting. But before it's not actually my car because I'm not sure how long I'm staying in Oregon, or what's next for me. But I did have a Volvo station wagon that caught on fire in the middle of the U.S. And
How did you manage to do that?
The all-wheel drive system just totally exploded. So all of a sudden smoke is erupting from the car, and I was in Missouri. I had to call the Sweet Springs, Missouri Fire Department, and like 18 firefighters showed up. And by the time they had gotten there, my sister had pointed out that the keys were still in the ignition and I should probably take them out, and I did. And I was throwing my luggage on the side of the highway, but...
See, you got some exciting stories to tell.
That was an exciting story, I suppose. That silly car.
So back to movies again. Who's your favorite actor or actress?
Favorite actor or actress? I don't know. I'm not really a big movie person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me a story.
Tell you a story.
Mm-hmm. Any kind of story.
Any kind of story. Way to put me on the spot here.
Okay, shall I tell you a story?
Huh?
Should I tell you a story?
Yeah, please tell me a story.
Okay. The pigeons and the statue. I think I told you about that. I asked the...
Explain that. What does that mean to you, to him?
In the locker room, I said to this guy, as I usually do, how's it going? He says, well, some days I feel like the pigeon, and other days I feel like the statue. Well, when pigeons fly around, you know what they do with the statue?
They poop on it.
Yes. This isn't, today I'm not sure which, but anyhow.
I'm not sure which I am. I'm not sure if I'm I'm guessing being the pigeon would be the better scenario of the two. So tell me about Unitarianism, and do you go to that church often? Are you a member, or were you just there for the event that evening?
I've been a Unitarian off and on for some years now.
Okay.
I'm a humanist now.
Right.
And I spend my Sunday mornings going to humanist discussion groups and presentations at the Humanist of Greater Portland.
What are those like, or what was it?
Well, we have people who come and talk to us about humanism and things that humanists are concerned about, usually social justice things and political things.
Okay.
And we end up enjoying the meeting and feeling good and learning some more about what's important in life.
There's not a church for humanists, right? These.
No, they don't
call it a church.
Call their gatherings churches, but humanists have a whole range of whether or not they believe in the hereafter, a God, and that sort of a thing. But
so some do and some don't.
Some are pretty agnostic, and some are almost Christian-like in their beliefs. I'm also a humanist minister. I perform.
You're a humanist minister?
For years and years. I marry people sometimes. And I do memorials sometimes if somebody dies. And I like to hang out with people and be nice to them and listen to them and pay attention to them and be interested in them. And that way they talk about the reality of what's going on inside of them. And that way we have a connection that's unusual nowadays, because people are so busy nowadays with their lives and going, having things to do. One of my signs I wear sometimes is.
Okay, you have these signs. I
wear protest signs all the time. I have over 50 signs.
Just wear them around every day?
Yeah.
All right.
So I get into conversations with people. And I didn't have something to eat before this show started, so I'm running out of steam now, and my director's going to be yelling at me. But the sign said, when's the last time you felt caught up? It provokes a conversation.
Mm-hmm. So people will come up to you and just start telling you when the last time they felt caught up was.
What does that mean, they'll say.
Okay.
So I say, well, when you lay your head on the pillow at night before you go to sleep, you say, am I caught up? That means whatever I got to do that I'm planning for tomorrow, if I feel like I'm all caught up and there's nothing that I have to do.
Oh, caught up. Like,
caught up. So that's what it means. So it provokes a conversation, and
I feel like it could have a double meaning.
Uh-huh. What's the other meaning?
Well, caught up meaning I'm caught up with everything I needed to do, and the other is caught up like I'm so caught up in something that I can't get out or focus on anything else.
Yeah. So depending on the places I'm going as to which sign I will wear, most of my signs are protests, and I have a sign that says, I'm friendly. Are you friendly? Somebody said, what does that mean? Well,
so is that the first question most people ask to any sign is what does that mean?
The sign says, what do you mean by that sign? And then I tell them what I mean by the sign. And then we'll start talking about it. In the process, as we're just having this discussion, we'll find something else to talk about. And if we're visiting with each other and talking to each other and listening to each other, then humans are connecting with each other differently. Because you go so fast through life anymore, having things to do and doing things and not experiencing each other. Eye to eye. That happens so rarely in our society. I have a little story for you. One of my favorite enjoyable things in life is to feel spiritual. And for me, spiritual means if I have a feeling that I can't put words to, something occurs inside of me. It approximates pleasure or joy, but it's beyond that. It's a thing that I experience, I feel, like when I see a little baby in a parent's arm in the checkout stand, and the baby looks at me and makes eye contact, and I linger, and he or she lingers, and mom or dad doesn't know what's going on, but baby and I are communicating. If the baby's 8 months old or 6 months old, if there's a connection, you can appreciate it. But I've stopped thinking about being caught up or anything else going on for that precious moment. That's a spiritual feeling. It's indescribable. There's no words for it.
Yeah.
And people need to do that with each other more often.
And do you think that you can only have that experience when you're connecting with another human, or can you have that very present experience, other times in nature, or for example, or?
Yes. Does anything come to mind that happened to you like that, where you had that sort of experience?
Well, I think I have experiences like that where I just feel very present. And a lot of times for me, it's in nature. I don't know what that is. Yeah, long hikes or beautiful, scenery. Or.
Can you think of a particular time when it happened for you, where you had this spiritual experience?
I can think of a handful, but I mean, when I say spiritual experience, I think what I mean is just feeling very present and not being focused on, the past moment or tomorrow or what's next, and just sort of appreciating things. And I think, give that a lot of thought. I actually think that that's probably how I should approach life a little bit more, because I definitely have a tendency to be caught up in the sense that what's next, Yeah,
and if I find I'm thinking, well, this feels like a spiritual experience, then it goes away. Because as soon as I start thinking, my energy is involved in analyzing and
then you're thinking about
using this cortex, and my core isn't experiencing. Those moments, that's what life is all about. Those moments that occur, I can't plan to set them up ahead of time, because those are the kinds of magical things that occur that I need to be aware of and be available to experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being open to that experience.
And right now in my life, in my later years, seeing little people, little ones. And when I least expect it, I can see, like when I was driving over here this afternoon, there was a mom and dad and a little kid. The little kid must have been hardly a year old, and he was all dressed up nice and neat. and he was reaching up. His mom was talking to the person she was with, and he could hardly walk, but he was just so precious, that little kid. This is so cute. It touched me.
Oh,
To feel touched now and then, that makes it all worthwhile.
I think
What
so.
else do we live for but moments?
yeah. Do you have children or grandchildren?
5 daughters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How old are your daughters?
The oldest one is 61, and the youngest one is 52.
Okay.
And they have grandchildren and great-grandchildren and just tons of them.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get to see them often? Do they live around?
No, most of them live in Southern California. One lives on the East Coast. And we get together from time to time. Occasionally they come and see Grandpa.
Have you had them on your show?
A couple of them,
Yeah,
different
yeah.
times, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to have once more. But that's a good thing. Spiritual, what's important? What is important for you in life?
I mean,
Did you think
I
our
think-
conversation was going to take this?
no. I
direction?
mean, I think that it'll always be a challenge to balance achieving something and enjoying the ride as it's happening, because I have, like I mentioned, sort of have a tendency to see everything as a means to an end instead of, and not realizing that this is life and that I should stop and appreciate things. I mean, I see my work in economic justice in some way. I have a lot of things I want to achieve, but I hope that I can enjoy it all along the way.
What do you want to achieve?
I mean, there's very tangible, almost silly things like, master's degrees and, I would like to make a meaningful difference to like global economic equality.
Yeah.
I don't know how yet, but I just want to keep learning.
But if you want to, and it's really part of your makeup, you will do it.
Hopefully. We'll see. If I am able to.
You got another story to tell me about from when you were small?
When I was small.
Or even big?
Or even big. No, but all this talk on spirituality and presence, I guess, has brought me back to, I had an experience after college when I went to India. And,
India? Okay.
And I didn't know what I couldn't quite figure out what it was I was going to do, and I'd been practicing yoga for some time and been more interested in what that meant on a deeper level. And so I went to India to be certified to be a yoga teacher. And so I spent about 6 weeks practicing yoga for 9 hours a day and lots of singing and lots of I don't know, getting to know yourself, I think, was really what that was about. It was exciting.
How'd that feel?
That was a very interesting time. I felt very present. I felt very I felt challenged. Meditating and sitting still in the morning was like one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like wake up and sit and like focus on my breath, because I am a morning person and I just jump out of bed running. But I think that I picked up a lot of things that'll probably stay with me for some time, and appreciate, keeping a journal, for example, and I think my yoga practice will stay with me. It is the one time that I can sort of disconnect.
You're still doing yoga?
Yeah.
Every day?
Every other day, a couple times, at least a few times a week.
What kind of yoga? Is it meditation or physical?
No, it's physical mostly, and I do I actually like a variety of yoga classes. So I do some yin, I do some sort of the standard Western Ashtanga, like vinyasa, which is more active.
I did transcendental meditation.
Have you done that?
Yeah, and I miss it. I keep saying I'm going to go back. And periodically I go at my computer and I work out my daily activities schedule, and I'm too organized sometimes, OCD,
Yep.
But then I follow my new schedule for a few days, and then I get sidetracked, and pretty soon it goes by the wayside.
Yeah.
But my latest organization was that to do meditation in the morning first thing, and do some breathing exercises, because I have an arrangement with a voice coach that she's going to teach me how to sing better so that I can win first prize on the next cruise I go on with the karaokes. And
Okay.
that went on for 2 weeks. So,
So I want to hear more about the transcendental experience, or the style of meditation.
I'm aware that I'm experiencing my breathing and my mind is quiet. And the key is a sense of timelessness.
Mm-hmm.
From the time I say, well, how long have I been doing this? Then I realize I was in this state where I was...
Lost track of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the key. So we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
You have a last thought, comment to
I will
the viewers?
just, as far as Kiva, you know, if you are interested in sort of offering the Kiva platform to business owners that you work with, or you are a small business owner, zip.kiva.org. This is for the U.S., or just kiva.org. You can learn more there on how to go through that process. And I encourage you to do so.
Well, thank you for coming on. And now we should tell you about a few
Thank you.
public service announcements. First, I want to tell you about first PSA, Mr. Director. To learn how to end corporate personhood, we need to end corporate personhood because the Supreme Court said that corporations are persons and money is speech, and that's goofy. We have to amend the Constitution so that we can have that corporations are not persons and money is not speech, so we can take back our country. The next PSA we have is the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be further down the tubes than they are right now. And I'm so glad about the ACLU, even though they've made a few decisions through the years that I disapprove of. I'm glad for the ACLU. Next PSA, please. Oh, I want to tell you, I appreciate you watching. Thanks. Remember KFC. That Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And thank you for
Thank you
coming
very
on.
much.
Yeah.